time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by
PSE Archery, Yamaha Outboards, Better the Hunt, Easy Cut, Packer Max, Deer Camp Coffee, Buck Baits, JPO Game Calls, Limwalker Game Calls, Wild Seasoning, Total Peep, Sunrise Archery, Scent Lock, and Scent Blocker.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. Host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin in early December. Early December. I'm trying to rush the year away, so.
I tell you what, you don't really have to try because it's been flying by.
Man, it just seems like we were up at your place deer hunting.
Right, and that was in the end of November, and, before you know it, we rolled into Thanksgiving, which rolled into December. So it's like, hello, Christmas shopping.
I know it. You got all your shopping done?
Actually, I almost do.
Yeah, I'm close.
Okay.
I think the kids all want cash. Go figure. So.
Right, exactly.
Well,
but speaking of shopping, should we give our supporters a little hit?
Great Christmas gifts here. I say we get to it and get some people some savings.
All right, that sounds good to me. I tell you what, folks, Buck Baits, they've got their brick and mortar store down at 15 in Dodge Park in Sterling Heights, Michigan. If you can, get over there and check out the store. They've got a ton of stuff in that store. But if you go on their website, buckbaits.com, and use the promo code UNJ20, you will get 20% off your order. A great Christmas gift here. Why don't you get the Packer Max? Give Lincoln Rowan a call over at Packer Max or go to packermax.com. Use the promo code UNJ25. Get you $25 off your order. Nothing better than a great stocking stuffer from JPO Game Calls. Get over there. Check out the website. Use the promo code UNJ10. You'll get 10% off your order. And that Christmas dinner is coming up. Why not throw some wild seasoning on it? Use the promo code UNJ2021. Get 10% off your order there.
I used some last night.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
What better way than if you're out kayaking?
Yep.
Than to stay warm with Deer Camp Coffee, right? So
that's right.
Get over
with me.
Right? So get over to deercampcoffee.com. Use the promo code UNJ10. You'll get 10% off your order.
And don't forget, we have our own blend over there, the medium roast, Up North Journal blend.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, if you hook over to my screen real quick, we're going to take a quick peek into the 28 degrees of Newberry.
You would do this to me here. You throw me a curveball.
Right? It's 28 degrees up in Newberry. There's the live cam. Downtown Newberry, FM 123 FM up in Newberry carrying the show. Stop at Cedars, pick up some great pizza and some great deer camp.
Absolutely. Gotta love it. And there's snow on the ground.
There is. See, it's only 28 up there.
It's only 28.
It's 40 here. So.
Right. It won't be long. It'll be like negative 28 up there.
Right, exactly.
But thanks to FM 123 for carrying the show up there. We appreciate it. So, I'll tell you what. Let's just get into this thing, man.
Absolutely. Let's get in. We got a interview waiting in the wings. We've talked to 3 out of 4 of the Yamaha friends we've met in the beginning of the year. But what better way to wrap it up than having the man, the myth, the legend, Robert Blosser on to wrap up the year?
How's it going, Robert?
It's going good, man. I don't know how to follow that introduction, though.
Danny sets him up, man. He does a nice job setting you guys up.
Yeah, I'll take it, but I'm not sure it's all true, right?
You know what, my friend? I tell you what, we've been watching you guys since April when you guys were here in Detroit, and you guys have done a wonderful job for Team Yamaha and the way you guys have all fished and worked together through everything that I think has been thrown at you in one season and the kitchen sink.
The kitchen sink.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. But yeah, it's definitely fun to live out your passion, right? It's great to enjoy what you do, and it's great to enjoy your work. That's for sure.
Looking back over the year, we've talked to all 3 of you guys now, and you're the 4th. But let's start at the beginning of the year. You're going into this. What was your thoughts looking at your schedule ahead of you as to, okay, my object is to get to the championship in October? What was that thought process you were starting to walk yourself through going into all these different spots?
This was... it wasn't necessarily how do I get to the championship, right? This was a whole new format. This was a whole new everything. And the closest thing I can compare it to is anybody's rookie season in the big leagues, right? This was figuring out how to be the most productive in a completely foreign format. You know, I've spent 13 years, 14 years approaching tournaments the same way. And this year, throw everything I knew out the window about tournament strategy and try to develop new plans, new strategies, new ways to go about things, because nothing like this has ever been done before. And it wasn't necessarily the bodies of water and the schedule in front of me. It was more about strategizing, how do I make this format work to my advantage, right? My whole past has been fishing for the 5 biggest bites, and now we're fishing for the most weight. So a lot goes into play. You know, you got big fish, small fish. Can you catch more small fish than you can big fish in cumulative weight? So there was just a ton of new elements thrown at not only myself, but everybody that fished PWS and head-to-head this year. It was definitely a learning experience, to say the least. But it was trying to figure out who could figure out the best strategy the quickest to obviously qualify for that championship.
I tell you what, it was fun to watch. Kind of get the gist of it over the weekend with a couple of live spots that they dropped with each of you guys. But then when it came to Monday and Tuesday fishing to get into the top seeds, just watching you guys walk through what you thought you had good practice, bad practice, whatever, and then watch you guys go at it to get to those top spots to continue on for the week was just amazing. Whether you had to stay in one spot or you were zipping across the water.
Sure. And I'd love to comment on that, right? Like, my whole career leading up to this year, there has been no official practice period, right? Show up whenever you want, start your pre-fishing 2 weeks ahead of time, 2 months ahead of time, whatever your schedule would allow. But now there was an official practice period, right? So 30 days prior to that, the lake was off limits. Couldn't float a boat, couldn't even fish it, even from shore, right? That lake was off limits, couldn't look at it, couldn't be on it. And then you got 3 days of official pre-fish. So you had to be able to break down the body of water in 3 days, figure it out, and figure out what it was going to take to get to that grade 8, right? To get your seed into that grade 8. And that was obviously a huge hurdle, right? That was something completely new, something completely different. And that brought a lot of excitement back for me, for sure.
Absolutely. And that was just your pre-fishing to get in, like you said, the grade 8. But then you had to kind of peek ahead a little bit as to what the weather was going to do to you, because it sure wasn't going to be sunny and whatever for 5 straight days.
You know, I've never fished a 5-day tournament before, right? So for those of you that don't know the format, let me just run through it real quick. We had 3 days of practice. And then the whole field, all of the competitors were on the water for the first 2 days. So there was 32 anglers competing the first 2 days. And then the top 8 with the biggest weight went on into a bracket format for the next 3 days. So in my whole career, I have never fished a 5-day event. I have fished 2, 3, and 4-day events, never a 5-day event. So when you say weather, huge, right? You're never going to get 5 days. And then if you want to throw your pre-fish days in there, you're never going to see 8 days of consistent weather. So you had to be ready to make adjustments immediately. And having shortened tournament days, right? They were only 5 hours long. So when your gut, when your mind, when your head started telling you, maybe I should look at this, if you weren't making that move right then and there, you were already behind the 8 ball. Might have been the wrong move, might have been the right move, but you had no time to sit there and actually analyze, dwell on it, you know, try to put some percentages down. Hey, if I do this for a couple hours, or if I do this for an hour, there was no time for that. If you thought you needed to do it, you needed to do it right then and there. And the other thing that really, really made a difference and was just a whole new atmosphere was to have the entire field's live weight at your disposal. You knew what each one of your competitors was doing at every second. Every time they would catch a fish, you would know. You would get an update. You knew exactly where you stood against the field at any point in time. And obviously that helped you make those moves and dictate what you were going to do, whether you were going to try to mash the gas or whether you were going to, pedal it a little bit. Maybe you had a comfortable lead and you wanted to save some fish. But that was really the exciting stuff for me this year, was a whole new format and a whole new strategy. And honestly, I can't wait for next year.
Talking about that, mashing the gas or laying back a little bit, I got to imagine the amount of pressure, it's just got to be incredible. But not only that, to make those choices on the fly, the guys who probably had the most success, I would think, would have more than just one or two things in their back pocket. They probably got several things in their back pocket. In case one thing doesn't work, they can immediately start switching and going to that second, that third, maybe fourth thing to make it happen.
There was absolutely no way you were going to win one of these events with one magic spot. It just wasn't going to happen, because I think every fisherman can relate that you may have a honey hole, right? You may have a magic spot, but the odds of that producing 5 days in a row are slim to none, right? We get a weather pattern come in, we get a wind change direction, whatever it may be. It's very rare to see one spot produce 5 days in a row, especially a tournament winning weight 5 days in a row. So if you look at all of the guys that not only won the events this year, but finished well consistently, it wasn't off of one area. They had a pattern of some sort figured out, or they had a good milk run in place, and you had to literally fly by the seat of your pants to make it happen.
Absolutely. And if people want something to do this winter, a big shout out to Head to Head and Andy Cleveland over there in that group over there. They did a fantastic job with you guys and actually doing the commentary as well. But go back and watch some of these tournaments and watch how, like, one tournament you were here in Detroit, the weather was not the best, all the way to the algae bloom in New York in October.
Floods in Nebraska. And it was just heat. One day was heat, and then you just got to go back, kind of skim through the last season to prepare you for next season, because I think next season is going to be just as good, if not better. But that weather, and like you said, you had to have the go-to spots with an S.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I fished areas in the tournament I never even looked at pre-fishing. Right? It's just going by the seat of your pants. It's looking at a topographical map. It's putting the puzzle together during the tournament, right? Because in 3 days, you're not going to unlock every key to a lake. I don't care how big or small it is. And when you add weather as a factor, but when you have to put it all together, even during tournament hours, that's what makes it really challenging. And then on top of that, right, no live bait. We were not able to use live bait. And as a walleye fisherman, live bait are staples, right? But this was great to be able to say, throw the live bait off the table, run what you brung, and make sure it's artificial, and go catch what you can. And when we stack up all these anglers who are phenomenal anglers, and everybody tries to accomplish the same goal, which is obviously winning the event, you see guys either excel or fall on their face. And that's the beauty of watching the live event play out. Yes, there's definitely going to be down times. There's going to be slow times, but that happens during fishing. But you get to see the highs, the lows, the entire roller coaster of emotions that everybody goes through.
Absolutely. I tell you what, we're coming up on our first break, and when we come back, we're going to entertain that motion roller coaster when we come back.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible
by basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back, second segment of the show. Talking soap opera here in the break, for those of you on the podcast.
Absolutely. You talk, like Robert said, we're showing our age, but that's just what happens when you go over to Grandma's, and that's right. What she's watching, right?
Yeah.
But I tell you what, the emotional roller coaster of watching this event was pretty hard on ourselves. I tell you what, it was interrupting my work.
You were interrupting me watching. A lot of times he would be texting me while I was actually watching on my phone. Not that I would watch at work. I would never do that. But I'm like, quit texting me, man. Especially when you guys get down to the final, 5 minutes and you're only a fish or two apart, and he just kept breaking up my feed. So yeah, it was kind of like a soap opera. We were in the middle of it, thick and heavy. And for you guys, I can't imagine. You mentioned that you had the live weights. Of all the other competitors, or the person you were going head to head with in the later rounds. What does that do to you if you're ahead or behind? I mean, do you think differently?
Absolutely, right? I mean, if somebody's going to sit here and tell you, no, I'm just going to go stick to my plan and, do what I think is right, come on, let's be real, right? When you're looking at a live leaderboard and you're getting your tail kicked in, it's time to make a change, right? Like, you're not just going to sit there. But on the flip side, right? Fortunately, I was able to be in the position a couple different times this year where I thought I had a comfortable lead and was able to go do more pre-fishing, go do more exploring, try different things to hopefully give me an edge for the next day. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something very unique that we don't get to see in tournament walleye fishing.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're able to kind of pedal it a little bit, so to speak, pump the brakes, it's a whole new element that people usually don't get to observe in a recorded setting, let alone a live setting, right? Mm-hmm. All of this happens live. And to be able to watch, anglers go through the thought process of what they're doing, why they're doing it, and exactly when they're doing it is pretty special.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, we wouldn't, when you're under that pressure pack situation of not being able to pedal it or even pedal it, but you want to go try some pre-fishing, there's nothing better than what you guys are running on the back of your boats with the consistency that you need to get that boat motor started, right?
Obviously, man. I started this game in 2005. I started fishing professionally in 2007. And out of all of those years, I've run Yamaha product all except two. And I'm not trying to build up their ego, pump them, whatever you want to call it. Dude, I've never had a failure with their stuff. It's just built right. Is it going to be the fastest? Is it going to be the latest and greatest? Is it going to be the cutting edge? Usually not. And that's honesty. Will it always start? And is it the most reliable product out there? Yeah, it is, right? Just look at the saltwater. Look at the coast. The saltwater tells the story. And when you look at these guys that run hundreds of miles offshore, look at what's on the back of their boat. And there's a reason it's there, right? It's pretty easy.
Exactly, and that's when you got to drop the key on that motor to get that motor up and running, because you need to run across the lake because you got 15 minutes to go and you better put 4 pounds in the boat. You need something reliable.
That's exactly it, right? Every second counts during tournament hours, literally every second. And whether it's preparation the day before, knowing you've got 30 rods ready to go so you don't have to take 45 seconds and tie a new bait on, because that's 45 seconds that you may have caught a fish. Goes right back to what you're saying about the motor. When I turn that key, it's going to start. And when I give it gas, it's going to go. And that's what has to happen to be successful.
Yeah, you don't need to be sitting there for 32 seconds trying to crank the motor over, waiting.
No.
You need to get up, go, get to your next spot, and hopefully put that fish in the boat or get it up over the gunnel before time expires.
Yeah, well, seconds equal another cast.
Right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. Time is precious. Time is money, and you have to make the most out of what you're given. And I've been fortunate enough to work with great companies in this industry. And there's a reason I use what I use, because I know it's going to maximize my time, and it's going to give me the best odds to put me in the position I need to be.
There you go.
And that's just, it's been a consistent message we've had with you guys now for the entire year about Yamaha. And that just says kudos to the Yamaha team, the engineers, and everybody from A to Z over there that these boats' engines need to be reliable.
Absolutely. And everybody says it, right? But it is true. But it goes down to every product they put their name on.
And here's the other part of it. It's even shown live when you guys are fishing and you see you jump into the driver's seat and you turn that key over and you got it. You tell the cameraman yes. and the official to sit down. We're moving.
There's no editing, right? There's no editing room floor. None of that is cut. It's live.
There is
so if you're going to see a failure, you're going to see the failure happen.
Yeah, right. And if
Thankfully,
you're gonna see
that
bad boy,
hasn't happened.
right? And if you're gonna see bad boy Okada swearing on live TV, it's not going to be edited out.
Hey, I won't forget. I can't remember what tournament it was, but there was like 3 minutes left in the tournament, maybe 4. He says, "Sit down, guys. We're moving." And I'm like, "What?" He fires it, takes off, gets in another couple minutes of casting. I was blown away that he
Sure.
made that move. But that's the confidence he had in the boat or in the motor. It was going to get him where he had to go and get there and get it on.
It's got to be there. I mean, it's no different than a carpenter's hammer, right? It's no different than a truck driver's, tractor, right? Like it has to work for us to do our jobs. That's what it does.
Will you run your boat all year, or are you going to have some downtime with some ice over there in Wisconsin?
My boat will get put away for a few months.
Okay.
I do have a smaller boat that I fish out of during the winter. I've got a little 17-footer, but I've got a 70-horse Yamaha tiller on the back of that. So that's kind of what I use to stay on the rivers that are still open, like the Mississippi or the Wisconsin River. Anything that has like hydro dams on it that are producing electricity, they always keep water flow going through them so they don't ice over. And if you get a little skim ice, usually it's pretty easy to break through. But me personally, I'd rather be cold in a boat than cold on top of the ice. There's just something about staring through an 8-inch hole that really doesn't get me excited.
Oh, come on now. You're not going to come and do some ice fishing with us this year?
Come on now.
I do a little, and if I get more than 4 trips in a year, that's a lot for me.
So that's a lot for us too, because we don't have any ice to speak of.
We'll chase some panfish, but like I said, I'd rather be cold in a boat and be able to move and do what I want to do than be stuck looking down one little hole.
And then there you go. From the tiller motors all the way up to the big motors you see out in saltwater. The Yamaha is most relied upon, and that's the message we're trying to get to these people, that give it a try. Give it a try if you haven't. We tell everybody, go ahead, try it. If you don't like it, then at least you told us you tried it. But don't take our word for it. Just try it.
I don't think you'll ever hear I don't like it, right? There's a reason there's so many of them out there.
Right, exactly. And like you said, you're going to be taking one out, and it's probably going to be January or February, whenever you're going to be out on there. You and Brett are going to be 2 little popsicles out there, but
sure.
But you'll be catching fish, and you'll have a good motor. So, it's one of those things.
It.
So there's a picture that I see Mike's been showing. I want to switch gears a little bit to your equipment besides the motor and boat.
I know which picture you're talking about.
It's about it. There's a picture of you casting a rod, and it's got a heck of a whip to it. Now
I know exactly what picture you're talking about. That was probably one of the most memorable tournaments I have fished in my career.
Really, my question is, how important is that whip to you in a rod?
That's so what I'm actually using there is a JT Outdoors 6.9 Black Rain, and that was the Mille Lacs tournament. I'm not going to say people have to go out and spend a ton of money to have fun fishing, and that's absolutely not the case, right? Like, do whatever you need to do to get out fishing first and foremost. But once you get bit by the bug and you want to elevate your game, there's something about high-end rods that really open your eyes. And I'll be the first one to say, for 3/4 of my career, I never used a rod that was more than $150 retail. And I thought I was fine. And it wasn't until JT Outdoors put a really high-end rod in my hand and I got to spend some time with it that I honestly realized what I was missing and what you can actually feel, and the difference in, I don't want to say fishability, but just the knowledge and the what you educate yourself on. You feel every little bottom transition, every little rock, pebble, boulder, piece of wood. Is it muck? Is it sand? And all of that stuff telegraphs through. And when you actually get a hold of your first high-end rod, and they're not cheap, right? But if you've never fished with a really high-end rod and you're an avid fisherman, it actually blew me away as to what I was missing. And it may sound petty, but I've become a better fisherman because of it. I really have. That tournament speaks for itself right there. That was one of the funnest times I've ever had. Those 5 days were absolutely off the chart. And for whatever reason, we got dialed into that bait you see on the end of that rod, and it's a piece of plastic, right? It's a rage swimmer in blue bug, and for whatever reason on Mille Lacs, that's the deal. If you're going to go to Mille Lacs in midsummer and you don't have that, you're in big trouble, right? Like that bait's legit. There was a live bait tournament that was going on 2 days afterwards, and the weights we put up with that artificial bait actually outfished the live bait, the crawlers, the chubs, the leeches. I can honestly say, like, I've never seen that hold true at many other places, right? A magic bait really doesn't exist, but for whatever reason, that one right there was special on that body of water. I don't know if it's water color, water clarity, what the fish are eating. You know, it wasn't the obvious combination, but it was the real deal there, and obviously the results and the weights speak for themselves. So anybody heading to Mille Lacs, make sure you got some of them, because that was the ticket. It was actually kind of heartbreaking to have to show it live, because normally in these type of tournaments, right, we might you might be able to keep a secret like that under wraps for a couple of years and maybe get a couple events out of it, but you know, when something like that fires that well, everybody knows about it really quickly when it's streamed live, and it was the real deal, and I haven't seen that happen very often.
I'm not gonna lie, that was part of the fun on Friday after the thing settled down, and then it was almost like a big reveal. And what were you using? And it was like,
well, I didn't want any of the competitors to find out, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we did everything we could to hide that bait for the first 4 days.
Yep.
And, you know, it's going to come out. So, hey, we'll tell you about it. But I'm not saying a thing the first 4 days.
No,
right?
I get it. That was like the build-up, so, is watching you guys start catching this stuff. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, what are they using? I don't know. They're not showing it. But so stay tuned till Friday when...
You know, if like you had mentioned earlier, if anybody's got the winter blues sitting in and they want to watch a fishing show, if you're going to go back and watch any of the head-to-head stuff, I highly suggest that Mille Lacs event, because that was just a fish catching phenomenon that went on that lake with that bait. It was unbelievable.
And it was, and I'm not going to lie, after watching you guys use them, I was going up to my cabin up in the UP. I was heading over to the water. I'm like, told my daughter-in-law, we got to get some of these things because we're going to try them out. So not only did you do it live on TV, it became a sales pitch, because I went and we were buying every color we could. I'm like, and it's just like, you know, here we go.
It's a great bait, man. That's all I can say. I mean, it's legit.
It is. Sure. It is. It's wild. And then, you know, whatever you're using or whatever you're trying to use, but that secrecy till Friday was great, and that's one of the things. Again, go back, watch some of this stuff, because, like we said, it's made for TV fishing.
Yeah, it's on head-to-head.com.
It's on YouTube, head-to-head.com. But yeah, go over there, check it out, and you can see these guys, and it's great. And that's one of the things that we like about this. And we're coming up on our second break.
Yep.
And when we come back, we're going to continue our chat with Mr. Blosser about some more fishing.
All right, we're going to step outside, take our next break. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Welcome back. Third segment of the show. You know, we talked about what he thought of last season, the format and all that. You know, we talked a little bit. I don't know if we announced this before, or we talked about it before the show. I don't know if we talked about it during the show, but Saginaw Bay is going to be one of your stops next year. Looking ahead a little bit for all the guys and gals here in the Michigan area, what do you think about that choice of Saginaw Bay? I mean, you guys collectively together picked that. Am I right?
Yeah, we did. So, you know, the anglers get together and it's a committee vote on bodies of water we're going to and the times we go there. So if we go somewhere and the bite's horrible, it's on us. There's nobody to blame.
Right.
But Saginaw, right? Everybody knows the potential of Saginaw Bay. It's going to be a lot of water. And again, to what I said earlier, 3 days of pre-fish, 3 days on Saginaw Bay doesn't really give you a lot of time to look at everything. So you're going to have to be very selective, do some homework, figure out where you want to concentrate your time at. Depth of water, tactic, area, north, south. But the nice thing about Saginaw Bay is fish spread out that time of year. So I think we're going to see a really, really good event. I think we're going to obviously see a lot of fish caught. And I think we're going to see some different strategy at play, whether guys are fishing for numbers of small weighable fish versus guys that are fishing for a handful of big fish. And that's going to make that event pretty exciting. Can't tell you right now what I'm going to do until I get on the water and get my feet wet. But, that's what I'm thinking is going to play out. Who knows? But right now, that's what I think is going to happen.
And that's going to be, looking at the schedule, it's going to be June 20th through the 24th on Saginaw Bay. So you're going to be right into the June fishing up over there. But actually, you're going to start out in South Dakota and then head to, in April, and then in May, head to Wyoming. So you're going to start out west and you're going to start working your way back.
We are. So we're going to start out on the Missouri River in the Chamberlain area, and not known for big fish, right? I anticipate that being a lot of fish catches, good weights put up. And I think that's going to be a pretty dramatic event where we're going to see last minute fish catches, bumping guys in, bumping guys out. That one's going to be pressure packed. And then when we go to Montana and we go out to Glendale, I have no idea. Never been there, never seen it. Have started to do a little research on it. We're dealing with another reservoir, and what I do know is there's some big fish in there. So that one will definitely be interesting. And then, like you said, we start making our way back east.
Right, and then you end up going back to South Dakota for Waubay. But would you consider Sturgeon Bay your home waters in this?
Yes and no. I'm 3 hours from there. But that probably is one of my favorite places to fish. I used to spend a ton of time up there on the Bay of Green Bay. The last 5 years really haven't got to devote as much time as I like to, but that body of water still holds a special place in my heart. And it's either been feast or famine for me there. We've either gotten along really, really well, or she's not been very nice to me. So I'm hoping we're on cordial terms this year and all goes well. But once again, we'll find out.
And the big question mark of next year's will be the championship, which will be announced at your last tournament in August, correct?
Yeah. So the anglers collectively basically said, hey, we don't want to choose this one. We want the powers to be at head-to-head to keep this a surprise and let us know at the very last minute. And basically, everybody is going to be on the same playing field. No early research, no early phone calls. And it's going to be literally a 3-day figure out what you need to figure out and let's go. So that's kind of exciting. It's kind of intimidating, but looking forward to it. It's something different.
That's definitely a challenge, going in pretty much cold and blind, not knowing what to expect till you get there.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
When they make that announcement, is that going to be right at the end of the last event before the championship, or is there going to be a time between that? I mean, how soon ahead are you going to know?
It hasn't been announced to us. I have no idea. If I had to guess, I'm going to say they're going to announce it during the 30-day off limits, right? Which means nobody can do
anything.
You're going to get all of your knowledge in those 3 days of pre-fish. There's no homework to be done. You know where you're going, and you can't start anything until you get there, which is fine with me, right? Let's throw that curveball in there and see what happens. But who knows? They may release it earlier than that. But that's just my hunch.
Well, it's got to be in somewhat of a time frame where you can make accommodations for, because you got to travel and you got to book hotel room or whatever. So you've got to have a place. So that'll be interesting.
They can obviously give the days out, right? So everybody can make arrangements to have those days off.
Right.
But if they announce it 30 days prior, that's plenty of time to make accommodations, knowing you've already got the time set aside, and away we go.
Speaking of that, making arrangements and getting the time off leads me to ask a question. So you've got 30 plus fishermen, and is 32 or 36 in the tournament?
32.
32. So you've got 32 people. Do most of everybody in that, I got to assume, works another job? I mean, as a primary job. This is not their primary take-home money, I wouldn't think.
That's correct. Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And looking ahead at next season, is it going to be the same 32? Or are you bringing different people in? How does that all work?
I don't know the exact numbers. I don't know where we're at exactly. I do know there is a little bit of attrition happening, for one reason or another, whether it's financial, whether it's maybe an injury or just a personal choice. There is some attrition happening, but the waiting list to get in is very deep, so no concerns there. We're still going to see a really solid field of anglers, that's for sure.
That's awesome, and like you said, everybody, get ready for next year. It starts off there in April, so
yep.
Get ready. But kind of want to go back a little bit to Mille Lacs. If anybody wants to watch a made-for-TV, again, I'm going to say it, fishing event where Big Brother comes over to watch Little Brother win the tournament and put a tear in people's eyes, that you got to watch it because you did something extraordinary, which was really cool, by you stopping your fishing and zipping over to Josh and watch him win the tournament.
Yeah, once again, that's one of those luxuries of knowing where your competition's at, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that day I was fishing against Max Wilson, and sorry, Max, I think I had you lapped. And,
you did. We're not going to lie.
I had 30 minutes to spare, and I was watching the leaderboard, and the championship match was coming down to the wire, and my brother was in that, so I decided to take a boat ride and was lucky enough to find him, and got to watch it all go down. That'll be a memory that I won't ever forget, right? And that's an event that's pretty special to me, for sure.
Go back one day earlier, when you and Joe were going head-to-head, the slugfest, the two heavyweights going at it until the final round. 60 plus and 70 plus pounds. I mean, you guys were like 3 or 4 pounds apart, I think, at the end of the day. But you were actually, if you had beat Joe, you would have been fishing against your brother for the for that tournament championship. I know that was going through your mind. Talk about that just a little bit, how that would have played out.
First and foremost, I had to get through Okada, right? I respect the heck out of that guy. He's one of the best fishermen I know. Absolutely. He's very analytical. He's very detailed. And the guy does everything with a purpose. That's for sure. And he was on a really, really special bite. And I knew I had my work cut out for me. And the gloves were definitely off. And that was a slugfest. And that's right up there in my memory bank as well. I mean, I think between the two of us, we collectively put up 140 pounds in 5 hours of fishing for two guys, right? That's pretty insane. But that was one of them days where everything just clicked. Unfortunately, we were over 100 degrees heat index. It was brutal. I believe he had to take a few minutes out of his day just to fight off some heat exhaustion. But, that was a battle in itself. And had I got through that as the winner, yes, I would have faced my brother. And nothing would have changed, right? At the drop of the hat, the gloves would have came off, and I would have went just as hard against my brother as I did Joe. Wasn't meant to be. Maybe someday it'll shake out to be that way. But in the end, it was a great event all the way around. A lot of memories were made. A lot of records were set. And it's something I will never forget, that's for sure.
I tell you what, when you jumped into his boat and gave him a hug and he kind of broke down a little bit, it was one of those special moments that you and the two brothers have on live TV, and it was amazing. It was awesome, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, not many people get to win a major event to begin with, but to be able to have a front row seat to watch your brother do it, that takes the cake, man. That was special. It was a good moment.
Absolutely. And next year he'll return the favor.
Hope it wasn't the only one, right? Yeah, exactly. Right. Hope it doesn't end there. Let's keep it rolling.
Right. And Steve Schwartz says, "Hey Robert, I hope you had a successful hunting season, and I will be rooting for you, brother." So
appreciate that, Steve. Thanks, man.
Thank
you very much.
That's the other part of this, that as you guys are going from these lakes to lakes to lakes and people are picking up on this tournament thing going on, you started developing a following that might have been following you in a boat or on shore, watching you guys.
Sure.
And that was kind of cool. And then, obviously for us that were watching it on internet, it was, you start to see these folks start to follow you guys. That's pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's great, man. Without the support of not only family, sponsors, friends, right? The fans have to be there. Without the fans, we've got nothing. And I've always been true to that. I've always been humble about that. And I always take time out of my day. Somebody sends me a message on Facebook or any of the social media platforms or an email or whatever. I always set aside time to respond because without them, I've got nothing. And the fishing industry as a whole is a very, very tight-knit community. And the more people we can bring into that, the larger that grows. And in today's day and age, electronics, right? Like everybody's heard it. It's been said time and time again. But we got to get people outdoors. We got to get them hunting. We got to get them fishing. We got to get them hiking, right? We got to get them engaged. And if getting them engaged means me responding to a question or me just having a conversation with somebody about fishing, I'm here, man. I'm willing to do it. I'll do it all night long. Hit me up for sure.
There you
because
go.
That's what it takes.
I tell you what, no doubt about it. Get everybody and anybody back outdoors. But I tell you what, we're coming up on our last break. We've talked about all the head-to-head. We've talked about Yamaha. We're going to talk about something coming up next week. You're going to be heading south to do some fun fishing.
It's heading far south, man.
I just said south. You can explain how far south.
All right, we're going to step outside. We'll take our next break, and we'll be right back after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show.
Another reason, if you've listened to us on the podcast, you got to go to the Facebook Live or go to YouTube and watch the show live video, because what happens between the breaks is just, it's just not on the air, and you got to go back and check out what we're talking about.
You get little tidbits of information that you wouldn't get anywhere else.
Right. As long as he's not a big D fan down south, we were okay, or else we'd had maybe a little incident.
Oh, not America's team now you're talking about.
Oh, Lord, they're not. But anyways, all right, you've put your year's worth of work into these tournaments. It's time, I think, you're going to head a little down south, and you're going to do some fun fishing. Where?
I'm actually heading to Guatemala. Going to be my second trip there in 2 years, and I got turned on to some very, very special fishing down there, and this is going to become mainstream very soon, and I'm trying to take advantage of it before it gets blown up and gets well known. But sail fishing in Guatemala is off the charts, and it's not very expensive, and it's a absolute blast.
Now, we got a picture of a sailfish. You sent it to us just before. How big are those things?
They range anywhere from, let's say, 80 pounds to 120 pounds. They're not super heavy fish, but they're great fighting fish. They're very acrobatic fish, and there's just a lot that goes into catching them. It's a lot of rigged baits, right? You're using a lot of teasers, and that's basically a bait that's out in the water without any hooks on it, and that gets their attraction, and they come up, and then you kind of do a bait and switch. You get the teaser out of the way, and then you flip a bait out there with a hook, and everything's got to be presented perfectly so they don't see the bait and switch. But down in Guatemala, I fish sailfish a couple times out of Florida, and if you hook up with, let's say, half a dozen fish and maybe land 2 or 3 of them, that's an absolute phenomenal day in southern Florida. That's an absolutely horrendous day in Guatemala. That happens like 1 in 1,000 times.
Wow.
Okay. Last year we were down there for 3 days, and the numbers we were putting up, like we'll get we'll get 30 fish in the spread. We'll hook up with 27 of them, and we may land 23 of them.
Wow.
And that's an average day. That's not a great day. That's not a phenomenal day. That's an average day. Along with the fact that you're also catching Dorado, which is mahi-mahi, right? So it gets close to lunchtime. Hey, everybody's getting hungry. We're going to take 5 minutes. We're going to catch a couple Dorado. We're going to fillet them up quick, and then we're going to cook them while we're catching more sailfish. And in the meantime, we may land a blue marlin, a black marlin, a striped marlin. It's all on the table down there. But what we go for is a sailfish, and it's something that's pretty untapped. I mean, the guys in the know, the guys that know. And if you're part of the billfish community, which I'm obviously not, right? I chase walleyes. I was lucky enough to get turned on to this, but if you're looking for one of those bucket list trips and you're into billfish, Guatemala is where you need to be right now, because as soon as this secret gets out, and it's going to happen soon, it'll get overexposed, and just like everything, it'll get ruined, unfortunately, but right now's the time, and it's unbelievable.
And is Brett going with you?
Brett is going with. I finally talked him into going. So it's going to be myself, my wife, another couple that went last year who I'm great friends with. And then we're dragging Brett along with so he can see what it's all about.
So you're probably going to ruin him too. So next December, you're all going to be going back. But
probably, yes.
Hey,
probably.
It's a good relaxing trip after a year of tournament fishing. But how long, like when you hook up one, how long to boat one of those things? Because we see pictures of them dancing and doing all the acrobatics. But how long is it, like, typically to get it to the boat?
You know, that's a great question. And it all depends on the captain of the boat and how much he likes you. That fight can last 20 minutes, or he can just absolutely hammer down in reverse, back down on that fish, and make your arms burn like they have never burned before.
Wow.
Because you're trying to keep up with that fish and not get any slack in the line. And it may be over in 3 minutes. But it just depends, right? The captain kind of dictates the fish landing procedure. And there were times you'll have 2-3 on at once. And that's when it almost becomes like an orchestrated dance in the back of the boat, because people are going under each other, over each other, trying to keep lines from crossing. And the captain's also figuring out which fish is in the best position to back down on and get that fish landed and then deal with the next fish. So it was really cool to see for my first time last year, and I have a much better understanding about it now going into it. But it directly relates to any of us doing freshwater trolling, whether it be for salmon or walleyes, and manipulating inline planer boards and, you know, staggering those boards or moving boards and trying to land multiple fish at once. And it was pretty cool to watch how all that is semi, you know, the same. It's all relatable. But then again, we're dealing with 100-pound fish on the end of the line and in a much bigger boat. And, you know, sometimes a much overzealous captain that wants to land as many as he can, so he's going to burn your arms up as quick as he can. But that's all part of the fun.
So with 3 fish on, you guys are all standing in the back of the boat, reeling down on these fish, and it's just a matter of what he decides.
Correct. Yeah, he's definitely yelling out commands up from the fly bridge, right? Because he's up in the fly bridge from an elevated platform running the boat, and he actually sees the fish coming up into the spread before anybody does, kind of, you know, at that water level. He's got a better vantage point, and he's letting the anglers on deck know, okay, hey, we've got a fish coming up in the right teaser, or we've got multiple fish coming up in both teasers. Get ready, get the pitch baits ready, get ready for the bait and switch, right? And when you get multiple fish on, it's definitely organized chaos. And you know, you would set a relaxing trip. No, dude, it's not a relaxing trip. It's a trip. If you're a fisherman, it's a trip everybody should do. But this is not sipping pina coladas on the beach. This is not relaxing. This is hardcore fishing. But if you're into hardcore fishing, this is something you need to do for sure.
But you're in shorts and flip-flops, man. You're relaxing. Don't lie.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you. Okay, let's make this trip, and at the end of it, you tell me how relaxed you were, and we'll find out.
Dude, I'm in. I'm in. I'll take that.
Dude, one of them fish would jerk and pull you in the water.
I'll be in Guatemala in December. I won't be up here.
You know, one of the guys that went last year, he actually owns a boat marine out in North Dakota, out in Garrison. His name is Jason Foss. And he boated a big blue marlin, and this guy's probably, I don't know, 6'5", 6'6", 230, 240, very, very stout gentleman. And I'm not sure if it was sweat or tears coming out of him about 40 minutes into this fight. When you hook up with a big blue, that's something you're locked into, and you're in for a world of hurt there too. That's for sure. But you know, it's all about the experience. These are experiences, and these are experiences you'll never forget. And like I said, if you're a hardcore fisherman, definitely look into Sail Fish in Guatemala. If you want exact information on where we're going, send me a message. I'd be happy to share the place with you. But this is something we're still kind of trying to keep under wraps before this gets really exploited, because it's definitely special right now.
Well, I got to imagine, you know, we talked earlier before the show started. We were talking about getting kids, family members in the outdoors, doing different things, making memories. And I got to imagine, you know, comparing this to, you know, hunting. It would be like, you know, Danny and I wanting to go either to, you know, the Rockies on an elk hunt, or maybe going to Alaska on a big grizz hunt, something like that. I mean, you're just talking something that's, you know, in an exotic place. That not everybody gets to do all the time.
You know what you just compared it to. I'm going to kind of say it's not comparative, because the two hunts you just mentioned are very financially taxing, especially when you start talking grizzly, right?
True that. Yeah.
This is something you can do for under $3,000 a person, including your airfare, your lodging, your meals, your fishing. Right? It's not cheap, but in the grand scheme of things, from what you just compared it to, it's very cheap. Yes. And this is something you will never forget, right?
And then I'll be able to get my blue marlin up on the wall.
Okay.
Yes.
I was wondering about that. Okay, so I know there's replica fish, and I know you're not going to put this thing in a cooler and bring it back to the States. So you catch a big sailfish. What
catch and release, everything.
Okay, so they do you take measurements of it?
Except the Dorado, right? Except the mahi, except the Dorado. All the billfish, catch and release strictly, right? That's what's sustaining the population.
Gotcha.
That's what's keeping this a very special place.
Conservation.
There's not many charter boats there, right? There's only a few captains, and they all work together. They're all on the same page, and everything's catch and release. So basically how they work it is, first sailfish you catch, if you've never caught one, or regardless, even if you've caught one in the past, whichever one you want to picture with, we'll pull that on board. You'll get your picture taken. We'll do the release. But from then on out, everything is released boat side in the water. It's never brought out of the water. You get to experience the rod and reel catch. And then, you know, there's a leader touch, which is IGFA official catch and release, if that's what you're going by. But there's a leader touch, and then we go ahead and cut, and the fish swims away unharmed. So very few of these fish are actually brought into the boat, but a few of them are for pictures, but everything's released right away.
Wow, that's cool.
That's awesome. Well, look at the conservation that they're working together, all the captains, to make sure that they sustain what they got going on. Mm-hmm. Kudos to them.
That kind of ties right back to head, right?
Yep.
Like the format we're fishing, we're catching the fish, we're weighing the fish, and we're immediately releasing the fish. You know, we're not putting them in a live well. We're not transporting them back to a weigh-in, right? We're not looking at 60 to 100 mile rough boat rides where we're beating fish up. Same thing down there. Mm-hmm. It's all catch and release. It's all about sustainability, and it's all about protecting the resource.
And you said it's all those species except for the one that you'd mentioned.
Yeah,
they have that for lunch.
But that's a renewable, you know, that's a proven renewable resource, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something that actually needs to be harvested, just like we have deer season, right? If we didn't have a deer season, what would happen, right? It would be overpopulation, or they wouldn't be healthy because everybody would be fighting for food and territory. Same thing with the Dorado down there. Mm-hmm. There is a harvest quota, and you're allowed to harvest those. And they're very tasty, right? That's what we use for lunch
There
and
you
dinner.
go. And our car insurance would be higher too.
Yes.
Right.
Not that it's not already, but I mean, yeah, exactly. Now that's something I did not know. That is cool. You hear stories about people going down and fishing in the Gulf and catching these nice exotic fish, and you see pictures, but I had no idea.
Right.
I didn't know what they did with
until
them.
you run into and find somebody, like Robert here that
what a cool
that's
idea
done it.
or story.
So
That's
okay.
exactly why it's so special, because nobody knows about it yet.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so this will be the last question we have you on, but you've been to Guatemala. Obviously, you fish for walleye just about all over the United States. What's your bucket list go-to fishing trip that you would like say, you know what, I want to do this one?
It's tuna, right? I want to catch either a bluefin or a big eye tuna.
Okay.
I want that rod and reel experience. I want that fight. And I also want to eat that sucker as soon as it's boated.
You want to have a fresh steak.
Yes, I love raw tuna. But, there's only a few places in the world you can find either bluefin or big eye. And if you're looking for a grander, right, that's the slang for 1,000-pound tuna. Typically, you got to be in the Hawaii area. Never been down there, never done it. So if you're going to ask me on a bucket list trip, it's probably going to be to go target a grander big eye tuna for sure.
Okay. Well, and I hope it comes true, because it would be awesome to hear that story about how you boated it and instantly grabbed your knife and ate it.
That's exactly what's going to happen too.
That's like fresh back straps over top of a little fire.
A little fresh sushi.
Right out in the field.
Pretty much.
Right? So,
yes.
I tell you what, Robert, it has been a great hour with you. Glad to have you on the show, as usual. Glad to have all 4 Yamaha guys on this year. Follow you guys through this tournament that we did and everybody watched. And obviously stay tuned for next year. And if anybody's out on Facebook, look up Robert Blosser, his Facebook page, give him a share, give him a like, follow him around as he does more of this stuff. So
absolutely. So I tell you what, hang on, and if we get done, we'll chat for just a quick sec. But for everybody on the podcast and the live stream both, if you're watching, listening, give us a like, follow, share the show. Do the same for Robert and his social media sites as well. Like, follows, and shares for him and Yamaha. And a big shout out to Yamaha this year for providing you guys, access to you guys to be able to have you on the show. We just can't thank them enough for what they've done for us. So next week we've got
Island Armory on, and
we're going to be talking a little bit about weaponry,
a little bit about weaponry and silencer or suppressors.
Thank you, suppressors.
Whatever. But and I hope to hear and see some pictures from Guatemala, and maybe some audio of somebody yelling out,
"What's your name?
What's your name?"
No, I appreciate the time, guys. Thanks for having me on, and it's always fun. Look forward to next year for sure.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see you guys up here in Saginaw, man. That's going to be a blast just watching and knowing you guys are up here in our neck of the woods. So that'll do it for us this week, folks. Be back again next Thursday night, 7:30, talking with Island Armory, talking a little bit about some firearms and some suppressors. Y'all take care. Be safe out there for those of you still hunting, and we'll see y'all again next week. This episode was brought to you by
PSE Archery, Yamaha Outboards, Better the Hunt, Easy Cut, Packer Max, Deer Camp Coffee, Buck Baits, JPO Game Calls, Limwalker Game Calls, Wild Seasoning, Total Peep, Sunrise Archery, Scent Lock, and Scent Blocker.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.